Hi everyone, Artie Dan's here again for another episode of My Week in Horror. This is episode 23, I believe, if my mathematics is working correctly. But it also is the final in our Death Forest episodes. And that means that my special guest, WIlco C. RULLENS, is back.
I'm back. Back for the third time in this Death Forest franchise. Actually, this will be the last episode. The last episode and hopefully also the closure for me for Death Forest.
I have to say, I'm glad you're here to do this with me because I don't think I could have done this Death Forest episode by myself.
Yeah, I like
just don't know enough about it.
And I like the franchise, so, you know.
So let's give everyone a quick recap of what we've done so far. So in the first episode, we looked at Death Forest 1 and 2, and then Wilco's special version of Death Forest 3, an idea that he did pitch, but unfortunately didn't go anywhere. In the final episode, in the previous episode, we looked at Death Forest 3 and 4, and this awesome pitch that Wilco had for a Japanese Western version of Death Forest. But now, in this third episode, we're going to look at the final movie in the series, Death Forest 5, and then Wilco's going to talk to us about something called Death Forest Remake. Mr. RULLENS, should we start off with a synopsis of Part 5?
Yes, please, let's come with the synopsis. Yes, please, let's start with the synopsis.
All right, cool. And as normal, this will be my DVD back cover synopsis. A massive budget, and I don't know how true that is, Wilco, sees the Death Forest series come to a dramatic end, now clocking in at 90 minutes and set in Shibuya, right in the heart of Tokyo. Yoshie and the monsters have made their way to civilization, where there have been reports of people going missing. Those who go missing exclaim they've seen Yoshie. A group of survivors band together to try and escape her clutch and survive, but Yoshie and her monsters are just too strong. Can she finally be stopped? So how's that?
Well, that is, that's kind of what happens. There's a lot to say about. There is a lot to say about this one. Your synopsis is pretty vague, but to be honest, that's a good thing because we got a lot to talk about with this one. First of all, the first thing you mentioned is the massive budget. I don't think it's a massive budget. If I would have to analyze this from a production point of view, they definitely had a better camera. They definitely made it look more cinematic. But it's a younger director. This is the director who made Oni-chanbara.
Really?
Yes. So he is at this moment he is roughly 40 years old. So this was like what 7 years ago. So he was in his 33. He was very young at that moment as a director. So there's a lot of guerrilla shooting going on, a lot of shooting without permits, and they use a lot of natural lighting. And around that time, it was very, very popular to use the Sony Alpha cameras, which are very good in low lighting without too much grain and noise, So they managed to make it look better. They managed to have a lot of people in it, but they also shot without permits in very busy environments. And because he's a younger director, he takes more risks and he asks more friends to help him make the movie. And therefore, I think with a very similar budget as the first four films had, he made it look better. He made it look more cinematic. But in my opinion, the flaws are also more transparent because they try to make it more legit.
I was going to ask you about the guerrilla shooting aspect because not everyone shoots in Shibuya, and it looked very clearly that it was shot there, and I was very surprised that he managed to get away without having people staring into the camera. And I was very surprised that he managed to have people not staring into the camera, which is a bit confusing for me because you and I once looked at a Maria Ozawa film where the one where she's the alien drinking the awful mud water. And there is some street shots there where there's people looking into the camera during the shots. So how the hell did he get away with it in this one?
Well, obviously I wasn't there, but if I have to guess, it's because they probably only had the camera and no boom mic. So they were just there with pin mics, which is just, small little microphones under the clothes, small little wired little Fuck, how do you call that? Pin mics. How do I explain a pin mic?
Like lapels. Yeah, I know what
Lapel.
they are. Yeah.
Yeah. So probably because they use lapels or little lavalier mics, pin mics, under their clothes instead of having a big boom, a guy with a stick trying to record the audio, and only basically had a camera in their hands, probably a Sony Alpha with a good low light, fuck, how do you say that? I'm breaking down. Probably a Sony Alpha with a, fuck.
Which is excellent in low light.
Good. Probably a Sony Alpha who, shoots excellent footage in low light. And they only had that, which means that it looked natural. There were just people there. And everything was staged, but it was staged just like tourism. They were just, maybe shooting a friend of theirs. They weren't making it a production outside. I did notice that they used some lighting here and there. But all in all, I think that most of it is just done with the street light that were there.
Ah, clever.
That's what I'm thinking, and that's why probably the budget is a little higher, because this time they had two ghouls, so two strangers, or how you call them, stalkers. So they had two stalkers instead of one, very clearly, and only two, which is nice, because if you now rewatch the movie, which you'll probably never want to do, if you rewatch the movies, 1 and 4 had one, and then you can see where they doubled them, and 5 really had two. And every time when you see every shot, when it is not standing still, or it is, when the camera's not moving, then it is, then you can clearly see that they only used two ghouls or two stalkers. And then the only shot that had multiple was a more of a still frame, not a still frame, but they didn't move the camera so they could easily composite all the different versions in. But what I thought was interesting, because they had two real ghouls, when I saw the footage of that one shot that you saw like 8 in the doorway, when I looked back at it and investigated it, I think, if I saw it correctly, that the only two ghouls in the background were moving, and I think that the others were all JPEGs, just still frames. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what it looked like when I reviewed the footage a second time, when I wanted to see if this was a VFX shot or they really had 8 ghouls, which I didn't think they would. But no, they had two. Very clearly had two ghouls this time. So they had probably a bigger budget, but slightly. And most of it is done guerrilla and still super cheap with basically less time. No, what I'm saying.
I hate the fact that the version that I had, that I shared with you, is badly interlaced, which I don't know if you noticed it.
No,
but it probably made watching it a bit more difficult.
No, I had no problem with that. I think my VLC player fixed that. I had no interlaced at all.
I'm trying to find the shot that you're talking about, and if I do find it, I'll bring it up for everyone.
It is it's near the end,
which means that I can't react to it now because I don't quite know where it is. But
I could be wrong though.
They are JPEGs.
I could be wrong. I could be wrong that the forefront ghouls are JPEGs, but that's what it looked like to me. They were standing like ghoulishly still. Let's say they were.
I don't know where the movie went with this story.
Oh, story-wise, yeah.
This movie probably could have stood alone by itself.
Yes.
And actually not being part of the Death Forest.
I agree, and I think you hit the nail on the head right there. I think that was also kind of the idea behind it, although they put a gigantic 5 on it. But they really tried to self-contain the story, because here we define the rules. In 5, they took 5 films to define the rules. So they basically experimented in the first 4 films, and this 5th film actually did kind of what I wanted to do with 3, define the rules. And what they did with this one is make it so that the old lady would target people, that Yoshie would then, stalk with the stalker guys and then eat, and then they would disappear. So instead of being eaten gorily like happened in the first 4 movies, they disappear.
And that's what I felt like it wasn't making any continuity sense, because, part 2 is the greatest example, where all the schoolgirls can see the monsters and can see Yoshie. But in this film, it's just so weird that, one person standing right next to another person who can see it can't see it, and then, like you said, all of a sudden, poof, they've disappeared.
The thing is that the rule set was that whoever saw the lady is targeted. So if you see the lady, you're targeted, and then you will see the stalkers, and then you will see your CA, and your CA will eat you. That is the rule set. So whoever did not see the lady doesn't see the stalkers and doesn't see your CA. That is the rule set they created in this version. And then I thought it actually made sense because in the first movie, they all saw the old lady. And in the other films, they all saw the first lady. Oh, she's creepy. So they all saw her. So because the stories were isolated, now they're using that to say, oh, but that also happens isolated in groups. However, now you're right. I am not sure if they saw the old lady in the second movie.
Well, I know definitely the main girl and I believe it's either the main girl or the teacher did, because they saw her outside the school.
But the rest didn't, right?
The rest didn't, no.
Then it makes no sense.
And so that way, if we follow those rules, it means that the old lady has to pick the victim, right?
Yes.
Now, this movie does something that I hate a lot of things in movies, but it does something really annoying, where it has the uncle, whatever his name is, he's a hobo. Like, it's all fluffed out and everything. And then there's that transformation scene with the scissors, and he cuts himself, and then all of a sudden, boom, he's given himself a barber-style haircut.
Yeah, he was very good. He cut all his hair off his wig, and then all of a sudden he had like a perfect hairstyle, and he also gave himself a little goatee.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with that. My partner had a problem with that. Some people seem to have a problem with that. I didn't have a problem with that. I know it's a cliche. I know it's how you call that? It's a it's not a meme. How you call that? It's a thing that happens a lot
trope.
of films. A trope. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I know it's a trope, but I have no problem with it. I enjoy it. I think it's fine. I did think it made sense. So technically, what I think was good about Death Force 5 is that it had it had what I wanted to do with Death Force 3. So as a viewer, I appreciated it. I appreciated it because it did define the rules finally. So now we know what the rule set is. Then it did something that I wanted to do with Death Force 3, which was play with the fact that the light play with the fact that the light immobilizes them, that it animates them.
Yes.
And they played with it, and I like that. I like that they kind of take that concept and go further. They were creative with the light gags, and I really appreciated that with Death Force 5. It is something that I wanted to do with 3. I didn't see it in 3 and 4, but with 5 they kind of did that. Not the same, of course, completely original, completely what they wanted to do, but I was just happy that they did something with it. I loved the scene with the security guard. That scene with the security guard was creative. I loved it. That the security guard comes in and just at the moment that a stalker is about to attack a girl and he puts like a flashlight in her face. What are you doing here? And then the stalker is still because the flashlight. And then the girl's like, yeah, keep the flashlight on me. And then he goes to the other one. What did you say? And then the stalker attacks again. And then she said, no, me. And then the flashlight goes back. What do you want? And then the stalker was standing still again. Those were the scenes that I wanted in Death Forest. So I'm very happy with Part 5 for doing that. That's the stuff I wanted to add in my own 3, and they did that in 5, and I loved it. And I didn't have to wait long because I saw 3, 4, and 5 yesterday, so I got to see it very much immediately while watching the franchise. Luckily, I didn't see it all those years ago, 3 and 4, because I had to wait a long time every time for a new one to come out. Although, not really, because they made those 5 films in 2 years' time. But I love that. I love the security guard scene. And then also the idiotic scene that there's one character, a heroic character, who wants to solve this problem, and he will solve the problem. And he's kind of like a conspiracy theorist. He's like, oh, your Shia, there's something with it. It's like she eats people, and all these people, they go to a different dimension, and And that's where everyone is, and they're still alive, but Yoshie is just eating people and bringing them to different places. That's what this guy was totally nuts. And then when the ghouls attacked, when the stalkers attacked, he took his clothes off, and he had a light suit which he used to go through the stalkers in order to survive. He made a suit that gave light.
Yes, I did. I remember that. Yeah, the elements of comedy are definitely there.
But it's playing with it.
Future me. Now, this is for future me who's going to edit this episode. The scene that Wilco's talking about with the 8 stalkers is at the 1 hour, 3 minute and 30 second mark.
Okay.
And Wilco, it looks like you may be right with a couple of them, because there's one monster who's doing a It impersonation where he's stuck to the top of the door frame, which is pretty much an impossible thing for any character to do. So they've clearly had a bit of fun with the characters. But if I watch it in motion, the thing is, if you watch that in motion, that shot is no more than a second long.
True.
So that's how they get away with not having. No, they move. They all move.
All of them?
Yep.
Oh, well, I was wrong. For the record, I was wrong.
No, they don't all move. Sorry. Most of them move. Yeah. So you said you think about 4 of them move. I think actually you might be right.
All right, well, I said 2, so that means there's 2 more that move. But anyway, half right, half wrong. It doesn't matter. I like the shot. I think it's great. I just thought I saw it that way. But at least they only had 2 ghouls to work with. They really had only 2 guys in makeup where they did the entire film with.
Now, can you explain 2 characters to me?
Which one?
The nerdy guy who tries to protect the girls, and then his sidekick who has come out of prison. Was that correct?
Well, I have a thing about that. I cannot explain her friend. You have an otaku, like a nerdy guy, and they have his friend called Salmon. I cannot explain.
Salmon, that's right.
I cannot explain Salmon, but there is something that I want to talk about the otaku guy, because at one point when the otaku guy, when the girl he's trying to protect, when she gets eaten, and then he is like, I am gonna save her, or I'm gonna protect her, and I'm gonna fight Yoshie, he takes out these 2 glow sticks, and he starts basically doing what all the idol fans do. They start dancing with the glow sticks, and if you go to an idol concert, you see all these otaku guys, all these nerdy guys with glow sticks on the beat of, on the beat of the music, do their little glow stick dance. And that's exactly what this otaku guy did as a fight move towards Yoshie. At that moment, you saw the other lead girl, who was still alive, look at that with a tear in her eye. And I thought something was happening there that wasn't happening, because you heard everything that he said earlier under his dance in slow motion, I believe. And then you heard him saying,
slow motion.
I like to protect girls. I am here to give you fun and make sure you feel good. That's what he said earlier in the film. And you see that while he is shaking the glow sticks. And I was thinking, and because you see the other girl look at him with a tear in her eye, and I thought, did she just figure out that he cannot see them too? And that he technically is faking it just to hang out with girls? That's what I thought was going on at that moment, because that's what I was expecting, because you had just these 2 random nerds saying that they will protect these 2 girls and that he will hang out with them in order to make sure they're safe. So I was thinking he was faking it. He doesn't believe in them. He doesn't know these ghouls exist, and he cannot see them, just like the one lead girl cannot see them because she never saw the old lady. I was thinking that was going on. But then he gets eaten immediately. I'm like, oh no. Which means that was not going on. Which means what he said, I'm going to protect girls and make sure you're happy, was genuine. It was genuine, an emotional moment of him declaring his love to women and how he wants to save them. And then he dies immediately. And then I thought, huh? And then I think, oh, but at least we still have a very interesting thing. Because we have this one lead girl, because you have, okay, I'm saying lead girl is very confusing. There are two lead girls.
There's quite a few.
One
of them,
with
yeah.
long hair, one with short hair. The one with long hair is targeted by the old lady. She can see the ghouls and the stalkers and Yoshie. But the one with the short hair cannot, because she didn't see the old lady and she's not targeted. But they're all in the same group. So when then her friend, who can see the ghouls, who is targeted, dies, she just sees her disappear. Then the otaku guy does his little dance and says he wants to protect women. He gets eaten. He disappears. And then we're like, oh, this is interesting. She is stuck in this situation with people disappearing and she cannot see why. She cannot see Yoshie. She cannot see the stalkers. She cannot... Oh, no, now she can see them. Immediately after that moment. And I thought, why are we breaking that interesting element immediately?
Yes, but why didn't the old lady just appear to her anyway? Like, you're right. There's
it's a little wacky.
Always does bad for horror films. That's why you got to keep them simple.
But let's talk about the elephant in the room, yeah? Story-wise. The last scene.
The last scene.
What do you think?
Where he's screaming up at the sky.
Well, that's one thing, that Kazuki is still there and he comes back and again pops up at the right moment in order to save the day. But also, he thinks he's the last one and he wants to be killed by Yoshie, and then she doesn't eat him but the girl who didn't see the old lady. And then he's left alone with no explanation why he's alive while he is the first one to ever see the lady, like 2 years ago in the continuation of that film, of that franchise. He's left alone. We don't know why. But then we see the girl who was targeted by the lady with the long hair girl, wake up in a field of grass with a glow stick.
Yeah.
Does that mean this is a setup for a sequel in a different dimension, as in this is level 2?
Oh, no, don't say that. Although it's been 8 years, so clearly it's gone nowhere.
It's gone absolutely nowhere. But why did that lead girl that got eaten after the conspiracy theory guy said that whoever gets eaten goes to a different dimension, and at the end we see that lead girl wake up in a grass field with a glow stick, meaning that the otaku somewhere there as well, and she just looks in the camera, black. We're now in a different dimension. Does this mean that there's a battle in another dimension and everybody who got picked are maybe the warriors for a big battle royale? And that the old lady was just picking warriors for the battle royale? And then the reason why Kazuki was not picked is because she thought, you're not worthy, Kazuki. You're not a good warrior. And then now we're in this new dimension. And then now we're going to have a big fight. A big battle royale with everyone who was eaten over 5 films. And that will become Death Force 6. Well, it never became anything, but why go there? Why even go talking about dimensions? What was the idea there?
Well, you're right. Maybe they were leading it up for a sequel, because that's one thing about these films. They always did leave themselves open for another one to be made. At least Tomomatsu with Lust of the Dead 5 finished it off and made no more, and made it so that he couldn't make any more. It was just the otaku nerd fantasy. And in fact, the way he ended it was how the series started.
Yeah.
Back to part 1. So
exactly,
at least he did that with that. But you're right. Death Forest just leaves itself open for an unnecessary 6th movie, which I'm guessing a lot of people probably want.
Well, I just wonder how Yoshie, because if they would go in that direction of the dimension and we wake up in a different dimension, what would that do with the story? What would the old lady do in that situation? Who, by the way, somewhere in the story, I believe it was part 4, is like 120 years old or something. But it's like...
Yeah, that age thing didn't make sense to me either. Yes, I remember that.
So what is that? Where does that leave the old lady? Where does that leave the stalkers or the ghouls? Where does that leave Yoshie? What's going on there? Like, how would that fit in the story? Because if they're just the elements, the vessels in order to eat every victim, to bring them to a different dimension, how do they fit in that dimension? I have no idea.
I reckon Yoshie is like the Eye of Sauron. she sits atop and watches everything.
I don't know. Maybe
And
they're
then you're right,
more.
they fight
Maybe
down
they're
below.
just more Yoshies, and they. I don't know. Maybe they're just more Yoshies, and they're eating people over the world just to collect more warriors for the next dimension. I have no idea. Anyway, that's where it is.
Oh.
That's where that's where it ends. It ends in a new dimension.
You're going very Predator-like, are you? Okay. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
Work.
That's what they give me.
No, fair enough. So what was your idea for the Death Forest remake?
Well, so after we pitched an idea for Death Force 3, and that didn't go anywhere because our interest didn't align between us and the company. After we made a proposal for a Chinese version, which we never really did anything with, and we decided to make our own. I was thinking at that point, because we were still inspired by Death Forest, that we could help, especially Death Forest Part 1, we could help starting filmmakers by giving them 20K and then hopefully make our own diamonds in the rough, just like Death Force 1 was. To, just showcase a little talent of some people, of some Japanese directors, in order to basically make more cool content you and I can watch. So we started the White Ship project, and we already released 2 films in the US with Culture Shock Japan, and the third one will come out next year. So we thought one of the films we're gonna make, let's do a Death Force remake. Why not? If it is inspired by Death Forest, it's kind of the same context, the same concept. We're gonna take a small amount of money, give it to a director, and let's see if we can create a unique film with lots of potential. And then we can always build on that later. That was the idea. Yeah. So we went to that company, and then we pitched it to them. We said, hey, we would like to make a remake of this film as one of the 5 films we're going to make, and would you be interested in that? And we gave them a very interesting offer. We just wanted the rights for the film. So we didn't want the rights for the game, because I was interested in using the ideas I had for Death Force 3 with all the light gags and stuff like that for a remake. So I actually only wanted to remake Part 1, not even 2 to 5, because I never saw 3 and 5 at that point. But I also wasn't interested in Part 2. I wasn't interested in the characters. I was interested in the first film, not even making characters come back, because it would be a remake. It would be a retelling of the original film with the ideas of them freezing in light and stuff like that. So we offered to buy the rights from them, and we wanted them involved, and we even thinking that they could be involved if they wanted to as a production company. And basically they declined because they told us that they didn't see it happen, the project. And we thought they meant, oh, they didn't see us make these films, which we proved them wrong because we made them. However, what we offered them as well was to distribute 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 in the West. We said, if we make this remake under our label, then we make the remake under our label, we bring it to the West, and we will show the West the creativity of Death Forest, of Japan and stuff like that. So I tried to sell it as in, we take Death Forest to the West, including taking their original produced 1 to 5, repackage them, put a subtitle under it, and then sell it on the American film market. That was the offer that we gave them.
Wilco, we might have to let that ambulance go by first.
Oh, sorry.
That's really crazy, that ambulance.
It's very close, I guess. I'll wait a second before it's gone.
It seemed like it was getting louder and more aggressive.
Yeah. So we went there to pitch the idea for us to remake it, but I really hammered down on this point that we wanted to take Death Force to the West, to take it international. We wanted to make a remake and then release it we wanted to make a remake and release it in the American market. But not only that, we would take their films, 1 to 5, all 5 of them, the ones that they produced, and we would release them. No, sorry, again. So we wanted to go international. Not only would we remake Death Forest 1 to, create attention and to create awareness, but we would also take their produced 1 to 5 and sell it as a package on the American film market, just to get Death Force out there. And then they also, because they told us, we don't see this happen. And I never understood what that meant, because we made those films. We made it happen. What didn't they see? Then I saw Part 5 yesterday. We just talked about it. I saw them promote Shibuya. And it looked very much like they were trying to present Shibuya. And the director made Onichambara, which is a film known in the West. All of a sudden the films are not cheap looking but has a cinematic style. The VFX guy is a Westerner. And then we even see Westerners in the film at the end react to it like, oh, look, oh, what the fuck is that? You probably have to bleep it out, but it's in the film. So, with other words, those are friends of the VFX artist. And I also have to think, this movie's targeted to the West. Death Force 5 was targeted to the West. With how it was filmed, cinematic style, the director was already known, and the fact that there was so much subculture in that film. A lot of subculture. And then I thought, since 2016, the movie came out, the fact that I visited them in 2015 with a Death Force 3, with a Westerner in it, the fact that I was wanting it to bring it, the fact that I wanted to bring it to the West, why would they not have a VFX guy who is a Westerner, maybe give them the same idea? And then I thought, it would be very logical from 2016 to now that they already tried it, that they already made Death Force 5, that they already tried to sell 1 to 5 because it was 2016, and when we came to them with the remake, it was 2019, that they had 3 years of trying to sell it in the West with their Western VFX guy, with the cinematic style, the director, and probably Death Force 5 as a setup to go to the West. Because let's be honest, at the end of the film, Westerners see it, so now they can be stalked.
Right.
And probably what they meant with "we don't see this happen" was taking Death Force international. Because in my opinion, they tried it around 2016, maybe up until 2019, and that's what they meant with "we don't see this happen." They weren't talking about our project. They weren't talking about the 5 films we're going to make. They weren't talking about that we would make a remake. They were just talking about us taking it international, and they thought that would probably not happen. They didn't see that happen, in their opinion, because probably they tried it before. And I respect that, and I understand that. In 2019, I didn't understand that, and I said, you know what? I'll make my own Death Forest in the final attempt to have my own Death Forest. And I will do it in name only. I'll do it in name only, and I will have a different monster. And then I found the Japanese Bigfoot, and I thought, that's scary, let's use that. And then that became Hibagon, Japanese Bigfoot. But while we were filming that, it was plagued with production issues. After filming, the director left the project. We, as Tokyo Bay Films, tried to salvage the films ourselves, get a different guy in, different editor, different director maybe to finish it up. But after everything, cranking the numbers, seeing what we should do with it, we decided to cancel that film. So we will not be releasing Hibagon Japanese Bigfoot because we're not finishing it. We are canceling that film. And in the lessons, it's a shame, but after seeing Death Force 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, we will take a lesson from Death Forest. We have to break this curse. I have to break the Death Forest curse. And the only way we can do that, the only way we can break the curse is that we decided to forget about it.
Well, that'll break the curse, yeah.
And there ends my journey with Death Forest. And with these 3 episodes of, well, our week in horror.
Our week in horror, yep.
I see it as a closure for Death Forest. And you were all there to follow me on my journey, at least for 3 episodes, where I recap my, trying to make my own Death Force. But it's not in the stars, it's not for me. So, like I said, and I will repeat again, although I said it first, and it's very, very strong, and I'm saying it again, it's going to be less strong, but in the lessons of Death Force, to break the curse, we decided to forget about it.
Well, I still think that the Chinese Death Forest would have been awesome. And, there's a potential to do that without the Chinese. I know you had the ties with the Chinese at the time, but, there's a potential to take that anywhere, to be honest. And
that's true. Could be Thai, like could be anything, but it's not going to be Death Forest. Not only that, not only am I going to let go of Death Forest, and this is my closure. That's why I decided to come back for this special episode, trilogy of episodes, because I wanted to share it with you and the audience. I wanted to get it out there. But also, Tokyo Bay Films is not going to do any movie with the word death in it, or any negative word about, or any negative morbid word like death. That's just a new policy. Well, not a new policy. We had it for a while, but yeah, we try to be more positive in everything we do.
I think the new internet word is unaliving. So it's the unalive forest.
Unalive forest, that's true.
Yeah.
I don't know that unalive forest
Rollins,
is, that's the same ring to it, but...
Well, Mr. Rollins, I've had a blast over these last 3 episodes, from recapping 5 pretty average movies, but getting your input on how you would have spruced up the series and taken it in a different direction. I've really enjoyed it, and I really hope everyone who's watching all 3 episodes can take the same away from it. Who knows what's going to happen with Death Forest in the future, but as you've said, for you, in your heart, it's done and dusted.
Yes, it is. But before we really run away from this franchise, how would you rank them?
1, 2, 5, 4, 3.
1, 2, 5, 4, 3.
Yeah.
And that's from good to best? I mean, what am I saying?
Yeah.
Is that from best to worst?
From average to worst, yeah.
Okay. Oh, average to worst. I see what you're doing there. All right. Well, like I said, if I give one final look back at the franchise, then the first one had potential. The second one was the same. The third one was interesting presentation. The fourth one was first closure, forget about it, which is what I decided to do. And then the fifth is the second closure and the next dimension. My order of the ones that I think are best is 1, 3, and 5. And the order is 1, 5, 3, 2, 4. So I think the first one is the best. The fifth one is the most interesting because of the light gags and the development they did based... Because that's the thing. The first one had potential. The fifth one used that potential. The third one just had an interesting presentation, so I liked it personally. And then it's number 2, and then it's number 4 as my least favorite. And that is the last thing I want to say about Death Forest.
Well, I'm going to let you have the last word then. So
that was it.
That's it. That's been my week in horror, our week in horror, episodes 21, 22, and 23. You have been Wilco C. Rollins, is that correct?
I have been Wilco C. Rollins, and I will be Wilco C. Rollins for a long time, hopefully. So
beautiful. And I have been the Artie Dance, and, well, that's just a stage name, so I probably won't be that for too much longer. And
you're going to change your stage name?
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. I have no idea what episode 24 will be about. Probably some Indonesian stuff, because I've been back into Indonesian horror. So anyway, I'll catch you all the next time we decide to do this crazy thing we call My Week in Horror. Thank you, everyone, and see you next time.
See ya.